thank you everyone for joining. We're gonna start the webinar, The Impact of SOC 2 on R&D, a CTO's Roadmap to Compliance in 2020. We're gonna host Alexander Tilkin today. Thank you for joining us, Alex. In the next 40 minutes, I'm gonna take you for a discussion with Alex. He's a CTO in a startup in the fintech space that's called Complyt. Alex will tell a little bit more about it just in a few minutes. And we will deep dive into the challenges and the goals and the objectives of achieving compliance. And I think it's gonna be an interesting conversation. Are you ready, Alex?
Absolutely.
All right, great. So just before we start, a couple of slides about SOC 2, and maybe we can start with a poll. If you ever done SOC 2 before, I'm just gonna open the poll, the survey option. Everyone should have. You should see right now on the screen a survey, just that will understand how many of you already did. All right. Okay. We'll give it 3 more people to go. We'll see. At the moment, majority haven't had the pleasure yet. So that's interesting. But I think this is why we have in the conversation today. All right. 67% haven't had the pleasure. In SOC 2, we'll give it 10 more seconds, and then we see the final result from 78%. 67% haven't had the pleasure to do compliance. I think that that's a vast majority of the people on the call, and this is why we have in this webinar. So I'm gonna go back to the slide and just start by the fact that every company needs security compliance. And let's be honest about it, the number one major reason is because you want to close a deal, or a customer, you got a request from one of your prospects, one of your customers. It might be companies that raising their next round A, round B, and one of the investors of the VC are demanding that. And in some other cases, it might be part of a security questionnaires or just a law or regulation in some places. So that's the incentive essentially for companies to go for SOC 2. And SOC 2 can be painful because for you guys, CTOs, you might be clueless when it comes for security compliance and internal controls and organization controls. It's time consuming, and instead of focusing on your forte on development, architecture, hiring, and so on, you need to shift and invest your time on SOC 2 and compliance processes. It might be complicated. It's not that you cannot learn that, but it's just gonna accumulate some part of your time. And you might have tight deadline if you need to sign a specific customer at the specific time frame, and you have some timeline that you want to hit. And eventually, it's all about the cost, how much it's gonna cost, direct cost, indirect cost, if it's your time, your employees' time, maybe additional tools that you need to buy, maybe penetration testing, auditors, automation tool. We're gonna discuss everything in the following 30 minutes. And just before we start, one last question: how long do you think it takes to get SOC 2? So I'm gonna share one more time my screen. Let me know if you can see it. Oh, sorry. All right, you can see the second question right now. And right after, we're gonna start the discussion with Alex. All right, you can see a nice spread. Very nice spread, guys. Okay, 5 more seconds. All right, interesting answers. So majority of you, 40%, assume it's going to take 1 year, and 30% it's kind of spread equally. 30% think it's going to take 3 months or up to 6 months. So it's kind of right, and I can share more about the time frame and the timeline, but I would like to do that during the discussion that I'm going to have with Alex. So we're gonna get to that in a few minutes, guys. So thank you very much again, Alex, for joining us and taking the time. Now, if you can please share a little bit about yourself, about your background, and a couple of words about what's Complyt platform.
Sure. Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on your platform. Really appreciate it. So first of all, yeah, my name is Alex. I'm co-founder CTO for Complyt. Complyt is a sales tax cloud platform for organizations that operates in the United States, regardless if they are located in the United States or outside of the United States. But the moment they have a business with a customer who is a US customer, so they are obligated to collect taxes, and this is where we come into picture. I'm sure that most of you know that US taxes is a complicated domain with a lot of rules and constraints and regulations that are always evolving. So instead of having the headache of working with an accountant firm, we do everything automatically, starting from calculating the taxes, reporting to the different departments in the government, everything. So a little bit about my background. Yeah, so I'm in my background, I'm a software engineer. I come from signal processing algorithms. I did the whole path from tech lead to team lead. So yeah, now I'm a CTO. Yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
All right, thank you very much, Alex. So I'm gonna jump straight to it. Why did you need it in the first place, SOC 2?
Right. So I think that first of all, I'm a very security-oriented person because of my background in my previous companies. So security was trivial for me, and it was always in our mindset since day one, and especially also because we are working with a very sensitive data of our customers. So we put a lot of effort and thinking into how do we make our platform secured and private. And as you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, yeah. So where we started we went quite fast with customers engagement, and I think 4 months after we started this venture, we had like different potential discussions with the prospects, and some of the prospects asked like, "Are you SOC 2 compliant?" And there was like, okay, so what is SOC 2? And there started our journey. And once I read about the requirements for obtaining the SOC 2 certificate, and I saw the perfect correlation with our mindset of security and privacy and performance and availability, observability, and all the different non-functional characteristics it requires, I said, yeah, this can be a great guidance for developing our product.
Interesting. Now, guys, I'm just going to share that I'm going to leave 5 minutes in the end for Q&A. So this discussion is going to take somewhere between 20 to 30 minutes, and then we're going to have 5 more minutes for any question you might have. So feel free to ask us. We're going to address everything soon. So Alex, that's super interesting. Before you started, you understand that you need to go for SOC 2 because the prospect asked it for you. What was the next step? Like, if you've been Googling it, asking friends, and the next question, what were the main SOC 2 objectives that you had in mind?
Right. So as most of the my market research that you do, you start basically from Google, and today I guess it's it's also like ChatGPT. It's a valuable resource. You ask friends, and it's like it's a complicated journey, especially when you don't have guidance. So we decided to look for a suitable so a suitable compliance partner that can guide us, and that here we met you guys, and it was actually honestly a great journey working with you on our first compliance certificate. And what were our main objectives? So it depends, right? So of course, as everything, we what we do, we create business. So what we want to do business. So SOC 2 is a great a development vehicle for developing your business in the right direction, right? And
Yeah.
it's always easier to show a customer a SOC 2 certificate rather than answering and proving him or her that you are secured and reliable and private, etc. Right?
Yeah.
Of course, even though you have a SOC 2 compliance certificate, they will still ask you questions because it makes sense, right? But it's like it's like some kind of comfort.
Yeah. No,
for
totally.
the customer. Yeah.
Now, before we're gonna, because this talk, I want to take you to the bits and bytes of SOC 2, but for specifically R&D, R&D teams with R&D orientation. But before we start, I'm just gonna touch base and give a 1-minute brief about SOC 2. So all of the attendees to the call will be aligned. SOC 2 stands for Service Organization Control. That's an attestation report with an independent auditor that will be performing eventually the audit for the company. Now, it's the auditor need to be accredited by the American Institute for Certified Public Accountant, which means that only CPA firms in all over the world, but they need to be accredited by the AICPA, can actually sign on the final report. The reason being why companies that came from the financial industry doing security audits, it's because this type of audit was actually evolved from the financial methodology. And this is why the approach the auditor will have for this audit will be based on trust, but verify, which means that you will need to supply lots of data and evidence that can be screenshots, that can be logs, JSON file, PDF, Word, repositories, pull requests, code review, you name it. The auditor is going to take population and then have random sampling, and then they're gonna have some testing procedure, and eventually they're gonna write the testing results. Now, we have two types of SOC 2. We have SOC 2 type 1 and SOC 2 type 2. SOC 2 type 1 addresses for the design and implementation of controls, while SOC 2 addresses the same, SOC 2 type 2 addresses the same thing, but it also addresses the effectiveness of controls over a period of time, which means it's more robust, it takes more time, it's more comprehensive. In the first year, the audit period is gonna take at least 3 months without preparation, and then the auditor will need to prepare the final report, which can take up to additional 45 days. Now, we already got to, let's say, 4.5 months, and you still need to do readiness assessment and gap analysis and remediate all the things that you need to fix, that you need to create, policies, procedures, tools that you need to implement. And that might take somewhere between 2 weeks to 3 months. So in total, and I'm getting back to the question we had in the survey a few minutes ago, how much time will it take to get SOC 2? Well, that depends. SOC 2 Type 1 might take somewhere between 3 to 4 months. It's not as robust, it's not as expensive, and it takes less time. While the SOC 2 Type 2, it's going to take somewhere between 4 to 8 months. It's really depend on the company and the auditor and the resource allocation you guys have. And also on the scope. The SOC 2 can have a scope of what's so-called trust service principles. The trust service principle, you can look at it as the subject that you're going to have within the SOC 2. It starts with security. Security is a must, and it's structured from 9 different subjects, from organizational things all the way to the software development life cycle and IT and change management and security controls and access and more. And you have actually one control for the application itself when it comes to pen testing, but the majority is going to be on the back end, back office, different access to tools, to log, to a cloud service provider, to the identity provider, and more. And majority of your customer most likely going to ask for the SOC 2 Type 2 because it's more robust, because it's more in-depth. And you also need to understand that as part of the scope, security is a must, but you also have availability, confidentiality, processing integrity, and privacy. Now, security is a must. So if you look into the bare minimum required, you should go only for security. Why you should add availability or confidentiality or privacy? It actually depends on the organization. It's depend on the platform. If this is a mission critical, or if your platform is a nice to have. If you have any commitment, legal commitment with your customers, and I'd love to advise more in person, but just so you understand the general guidelines, this is the SOC 2 Type 1, that's the SOC 2 Type 2, and the scope is 5 trust service principle, while only security is a must. So we discussed about the timeline, Alex. Do you know what was the scope for Complyt?
If we're talking about how much time did it take us to obtain the SOC 2, I think we're somewhere around 4 to 6 months, less than 6 months. But we were like very focused on achieving this. And in terms of scoping, so there was, of course, there was availability and security and privacy and all the different procedures that are required for security awareness. And what there was, like, of course, observability and also like retention, backups to the different, like, the data.
So wait, Alex. Before you even deep dive, I want to ask you, how did you prepare your R&D team and the tech infrastructure for SOC 2?
Right, it's a great question. So honestly, I didn't have to do any preparations because we started the process almost at the beginning of our venture. So there were changes, right? So for instance, I remember an interesting change that we had to do was to change our network topology in AWS to support high availability and isolation of different containers. But besides that, everything, it was like a guideline on how to build a good, I don't say like good because it's a little bit be arrogant here, but how to build the product in the, let's say, in the way that it will be secured, stable, private, like resilient. And also, one can conduct observability on it, right?
No, I understand, and I guess there are some controls that might be easy control, like you need to enable your multi-factor authentication for production environment, which will be obvious. But then, is it only for the console access, but also for the SDK? And this might be even simple control. In some other cases, you might need to address the architecture that you built. Maybe stage, dev, and prod is in the same architecture. Maybe it's multi-tenant. Maybe you need to have different availability zones. How did you address this kind of specifics and controls?
Right. So if we're talking about, for instance, high availability, this is something that it's supposed to be quite obvious for someone who build a product that if your customers are requiring SOC 2 from your product, it means that they need your product available 24/7, right? And it should be like, as a CTO, the way I see it, it should be your will to have your product working 24/7. And since you cannot lay all your legs in one basket, you won't leave all your container in one availability zone. So automatically you will say, okay, I need my containers spread all around, like at least 2 availability zones, which will make it automatically high available, right? But I think it's a kind of chicken and egg question, because it very depends also on the technology that you use. But I think, first of all, getting to high availability, it's just the way how you design your software. So it comes back again to the answer to the question. Basically, SOC 2, you should start building working on your SOC 2 compliance the moment you start your startup, because some people, I heard that they address SOC 2 as a hustle and as something that getting in their way while they want to reach the best MVP or the best feature. But the opposite is the truth, right? So the long way is the short way here, because if you do the things right, so first of all, they will work. And also on the way, you will get a SOC 2 certificate, and you will be able to reach better business results.
Yeah. But let's be honest about that. You, as a CTO, you're super busy. You have a million and one things on top of your mind. And suddenly you get in a request from a customer, from the business, from the sales, from the CEO. Hey, Alex, we need to do SOC 2. We need it yesterday. I have a deal that I want to sign. So in the beginning, and I know because we have a conversation before the webinar. In the beginning, you look at this as a check the box. What's the minimum I need to do? All right, so I need to that the platform will be available 24/7. All right, so you might build some kind of a quick fix or something that might be even quick and dirty, but something that's gonna work and be good enough for the SOC too. But you just mentioned that it's very good infrastructure and foundation to scale up as a startup, because in the beginning you really needed it for SOC 2 purpose solely. But afterwards, you had a customer, a huge customer, which it needs to be available not 24/7, but every second.
Right. So this is a perfect.
A little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a perfect example. So we were very fortunate, and we landed. So on our first year of sales, we managed to land a big contract with a B2C customer. And just to give you a small 20 seconds introduction, the difference between B2B customers and B2C customers in our domain is that B2B customers, for instance, they can have like 100, 200 transactions per month. They do it offline. And so the availability of your product don't need to be so like high available. It can be like medium or like low available. But when you land a B2C customer that have 2 million, 3 million, 10 million transactions per month, it means that you have constantly traffic in your platform. And this is where high availability kicks in, right? It means that today our platform cannot go down even for like 200 milliseconds. It needs to stay always up. And all our preparations for that, SOC 2, by the way, required us to achieve those as a checkbox. Yeah, but it's not a checkbox. But to achieve, like high performance, high availability, and all the different non-functional characteristics, let's say like that. And also like they required us to have a 100% observability on our systems, including like containers and VMs and network topology and everything, all the layers of the application. And now that we have a huge customer that have like serious traffic in our backend, we managed to understand what's going on, where do we have slow responses, why do we have slow response, what containers are don't functioning well, and we are managing to scale vertically or horizontally, or we changing our deployment profile in order to avoid downtimes in different aspects. So we are quite we are grateful for thinking ahead of starting this process and building the product in the right way, right? When we had this business opportunity, we nailed it. We didn't miss this business, right? And like Meiran, I'm sure you know that like landing huge customers, it's it's miss or hit, because if you miss, then they will won't sign, and other, of course, customers, they won't sign as well, because how it works. And those moments are the make or break moments for startups. So
Yeah.
as a CTO, as the one who you are the partner who have the responsibility and the ownership for building the product that the CEO drives in the business domain. This is the moment when you are tested, right?
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
So it's better that it should work.
All right. Now, just to like share, SOC 2 can be policies and procedures that you might think, okay, it's only stuff that I need to write down. And you do need to do that, and you also need to sign off on that. And that's good because it's building the right procedure for the company. Is it all right that all developers will be administrators on production environment? Most likely not, because then you're not following least privilege principle, right? Maybe it's
right.
the easiest approach, but it's not the correct approach. Now, there are some different struggles for a startup, but eventually, Complyt SOC 2 is kind of similar to Google SOC 2. Eventually, the SOC 2 framework is gonna grow, gonna make the company more mature. It's gonna make things more documented. It's gonna make it it's gonna make you to build the right procedures. And many of you might have concerns that it's gonna damage the speed, which that's a clear competitive advantage that startups have. And how do you balance between speed and business? And when it comes for we all have roadmaps that we need to implement, of course.
Right.
So how do you balance everything?
So my mindset when it comes to developing a product, it goes to the proportions of 80% and 20%. It means that 80% goes on infrastructure, 20% goes on features. Every feature that you develop have to be strategically impactful on the business, right? And infrastructure is part of the business. It's not some, it's like, listen, my analogy to this is, you're building a city, and you can have the best skyscrapers in the world, the most beautiful, the highest, with the best infrastructure. But if you don't have good highways, if you don't have good sewer, if you don't run electricity in the city, nobody will be able to use it. And once people want to use your buildings in the city, they won't be able to reach it because there won't be good infrastructure. So infrastructure is part of the city, the same as buildings are part of the city. Same applies for product. If you want to have Google as your customer, you need to have a really, really stable and good infrastructure. If you want to have speed of delivery in features, you need to have an amazing CI/CD for your developers, right? So you need to invest in both in both domains, features and infrastructure. And this is something that I think that a mature I don't say like a mature CTO or CEO business owner will have the understanding that it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I remember in the first days when I brought the CTO and he was establishing from scratch the platform, and I asked him, "Did you build something that is secure?" And I remember he told me, "Put secure aside for a minute. Let's first see that it works." And many people just look to see that what they build works and maybe works effectively when it comes to the fact to do what they intended to do, to fulfill all of the product requirements, to support performance and more. But I'm really interested to understand, again, what are the pains and gains of doing SOC 2 as a CTO, VP R&D, whatever, but maybe if you can start with the pains. What was most painful for you as a technology leader?
The most, listen, first of all, yeah, look, you cannot avoid the fact that it is a time consumption, right? Eventually, because it requires you to look into things that you might not be interested in, right? So look, I'm someone who's always curious about new stuff to learn. So I don't know, I'm not sure that I'm the best example, but for instance, you need as part of SOC 2, you need endpoint control and endpoint protection on every laptop in the organization, right? So as someone who doesn't have experience in, it's like endpoint control is like, for instance, like I'm not commercializing anything, right? Not advertising anything, but for instance, like Jump Cloud, right? It's a platform for managing endpoints from remotely, or like you have Sentinel-1 or Norton antivirus for endpoint protection. But for you, and I know some that when I started to look for tools, because I had to implement those solutions, when I was looking for this one for like 1 or 2 days, 3 days, I don't remember how much it took me to research and choose what I want, but it definitely does not drives your business forward, right? But half a year ago, one of our sales representative got an email, and he clicked on the email, and it was it was a virus, and Sentinel-1 actually quarantined this file that was downloaded to his laptop. And basically, I don't know what was the effect, what would be the effect of the virus, but I'm confident it won't do great for Complyt, right? So think about that you can invest like 2-3 days of your precious time into something that basically won't drive your business, but it can save your business from people who are not security or privacy oriented as you are. And I give you another analogy because I love them. It's like buying an amazing TV, an amazing piano in your very, very expensive house, but not putting a lock on your front door. That's quite the analogy, right? So you won't do this at home. So think about it. You're investing. I don't know. You were sitting in moonlight and you were developing your POC with your partner, and you went through a heartbreaking meetings with different investors until you landed your first seed. And you invest like your first year, and it's a headache, and it fucking hurts to build the first product to sell, and you manage to land your first customer. And down the road, you grow and you hire people, and they are not so security aware as you are. And one click can ruin your whole effort. So do yourself a favor and install endpoint protection on all the laptop. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. Those are true stories.
No, I agree. I think the scariest thing is that to get a message from your DevOps asking you, "Hey, Alex, you removed also from being administrator in AWS." You might miss a audit in that specific moment, but
yeah. So also, like for instance, if you're talking about like for instance rollback access controls like RBACs, those are also so critical. So now that we have, like when it was only like me working on the infrastructure and our like first engineer working with the product, manager on our first features, that was quite easy because we're like sitting one next to each other, like, hey, listen, or like, hey, what do you think? Or so it was quite easy. But now, like, you grow and you have like many engineers, and not all of them are like 100% understand know what they do, and you are not always around. So it's good to have, like isolation, not because you don't trust the people. You trust them because they are working in your company, but because you want to protect them from themselves, because they make mistakes, they get tired. It should be trivial as putting a pull request check on your protection branch. It should be trivial as this. I hope it's trivial.
Yeah, but sometimes if you're only two developers, a CTO and one developer, who's gonna do code review for the CTO, especially if he's far more
the
experienced than
developer.
the developer?
Yeah, but
yeah,
the developer, of course, it's like it's like in everything. You need to have a reviewer. It's not about the experience. It's about also the learning, right? If you wrote a code and it can be perfect, but you want the other guy to know what you did, right? So also
yeah.
code review can work as an education tool for this also. Yeah.
And what regarding, I'm still focusing on the pains. Like I think gains are clear. It support the scale of the company. It's putting the right foundation, especially when you're gonna hire more R&D team members for the backend, front end. Might be people that will be joining the DevOps or whatsoever. But when it comes for technical challenges, stuff that takes time, what do you have anything to share with the people in the webinar?
So implementing the IT infrastructure changes, if you need to do changes, can be difficult. For instance, like securing your database with like two layers of security, or also like maintaining this whole thing. It's like another analogy is like keeping your house clean. That you cleaned it once doesn't mean that you don't need to clean it again. So SOC 2 is always so SOC 2 is yeah. So yeah, but it's same here with SOC 2. You always need to take care and ensure that your R&D, your product, your sales, your operation, they are following those guidelines. And also training, actually, train the team to be SOC 2 compliant aware, because we have like a lot of almost hit, I call it, the security incidents, and the effort of assimilating this mindset into the employees in the organizations can be a challenge.
Yeah.
I think it's less technical challenging if you are technical orientation. It's more challenging afterward, like maintaining this compliance.
That's interesting. How did SOC 2 compliance impact your day-to-day operation and long-term R&D strategy?
Interesting. First of all, it changed. It changed our sales strategy. It impacted significantly, because now the sales representative, they have this white coat when they can say like, listen, we're SOC 2 compliant. And once you say this, the statement, it puts you on a different league, right? Companies are willing to listen to what you have to say, right? This is like from that point of strategy. Also, it was very important for us for the European market, of course, the US market. It allowed us to communicate with a more mature and compliant, customers. So definitely impacted our business strategy.
Yeah, I remember my time as being an auditor and myself. I remember a company, they had a problem, too many developers access to production environment with read-write access, sometimes administrative access. And we told them, look, it's not compliant because there is a principle in SOC 2, it's called least privilege principle and change management principle and segregation of duties principle, which means that there should be a segregation of duties, and you might give a developer access for debugging or check anything, but it can't be a regular access. It might be a temporary access. And then managing access on a daily basis, granting access, revoking access, it's very challenging, especially if you scale up. You have like multiple tools. You might have 50 tools. You might have different people with different access to different environments. You know, it's super challenging. So this company, what they did, they created a bot through Slack that if any engineer wanted an access to some customer's environment or production environment, they could choose from that bot where they need the access and why. They need to mention why they need access, which was a very good audit trail afterwards to understand why they needed access. And once they did get access, there was kind of comparison to see if they are enabled to grant access from specific environments. And if it was all right, they got the temporary access for 8 hours, and then it was revoked automatically, which was a very good process. But also, this is for a mature company. There were about 150 employees. Now, a startup of 15 or 50 employees, not necessarily going to have the time and resources to implement this kind of stuff, which lead me to my next question, and that's about time. How much time would you say SOC 2 take from R&D?
I think,
all over the year.
So of course, you know, the first process will be the longest, I guess. But for us, I can only speak for myself here. But for us, it took somewhere between 4 or 5 months. Let's say 5 months. And I'll be honest with you, all the technical side I did. Okay. So basically, it was me doing the technical side of the SOC 2. Also, there were like operational stuff, like different agreements and the policies that, but this is like no brainer. Like this, you are closing this in a couple of days. But all the simulation of the architecture in the cloud and everything, yeah, it took me like about 4 to 5 months. Yeah.
Especially that you're a small team, like you're a small team, and you needed to create so many things from scratch, right? Like we discussed about the system, the network architecture.
Yeah, but listen, I have to tell you that a lot of stuff the cloud providers today give you out of the box, right? So it's you do need to do an effort. You do make an effort. Sorry, but for instance, they ask you for firewall, right? So I don't know, but like setting up a firewall, whatever you have, like GCP, AWS, or like Azure, 5 minutes. If you don't know anything about firewalls, go into AWS, type firewall, getting started, click, boom, you have firewall, right?
Yeah.
So, and also, this is I have to tell you this, but Scytale, you have a great integration tool that you actually scan. You say, like, listen, I'm using AWS, click, and you tell us immediately, listen, you don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have this, and you have like these different controls, and you can, like, 5 minutes into the platform and you already know you don't have firewall, go at firewall, connect it to the load balancer, click, boom, you have a firewall. So this process, it's more about it's more about monitoring and understanding what you need. But today, with today's cloud, you know, like it's everything, right? You start, you don't know anything about firewalls, for instance. You set it up, it works for you, great. Traffic goes on, you are secured, you are SOC 2 compliant. Later on, if you are not happy with the performance of this firewall, or like you want to have a faster firewall, or you want to have a cheaper firewall, then you go and you research and you do the custom configuration and you do profiling and the improvements, but you already have firewall, right? So this process of reaching your the requirements and afterward improving works really well today.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I still want to focus on the time. What took you the longest from everything you mentioned, and maybe from something you haven't mentioned yet? What do you feel that you invested the most of the time? Now, just to make it clear, there is a huge difference between a startup, which this is much more agile. Things are not exist at all. You don't have teams to comparing an enterprise, which when you speak about firewall, you immediately think about the application and production firewall. While in big organizations, they might have internal network and a Wi-Fi and might have a data center internally to manage the IT. And then it's just getting more and more complex. Might use like checkpoint, external vendors, but that's not the case for startups. So speaking about startups, what took you the most effort, the most resources, the most time?
So it was cloud security, implementing high availability, and observability. Observability was the longest project.
Like in a few 2-3 sentences, can you just share what does it mean, observability?
Yeah, sure. Just it's like understanding what happens in your system, and the whole integration is quite complicated. We, for instance, use Datadog, and it's a great platform. And the process of connecting like we use Kubernetes on AWS, of connecting like a Kubernetes with your backend, with your Datadog, this triangle is quite complicated to make it good. So yeah.
All right. Look, Alex, super interesting. I have like so many other questions, but maybe that's for another webinar. I just want to wrap up, guys. In the next 5 minutes, I see that we have a couple of questions and just share final words. So one of the questions from Nikita was your choice of SOC 2 versus other compliance standards mechanisms dictated by client's requirement or something else? And would you recommend any other standards that might be lighter but still efficient for a startup? For example, why SOC 2 and not ISO 27001? So, Alex, would you like before? I like to add something, but first,
I think Meiran, you are the right address to answer this.
All right. So look, SOC 2 and ISO 27001, kind of very similar. All right. SOC 2 it's newer than ISO, but generally speaking, SOC 2 is mostly relevant to the Northern America's market, to the United States, while ISO 27001 more relevant for the European market. Now, both of them global certifications. Actually, only ISO 27001 is a certification. SOC 2 is an attestation report. It's an actual report with something between 50 to 100 pages, which structured into 4 different sections. The first section is the management assertion. The second is the auditor's opinion. The third is the service commitment and system requirement and system description when it comes for hardware, software, people, procedure, and data. And the fourth and final chapter is about kind of a comparison between the criteria of the SOC 2 framework to the actual control, to the relevant testing procedure attached to this relevant control, and the testing results. So it's kind of combining everything together. While in the ISO, the approach is kind of different. If in the SOC 2, the auditor will be looking backwards over effectiveness of controls over a period of time. In ISO, they will be looking forward for continuous improvement in your information security management system. It's much more based on policies, procedures, and interviews and walkthroughs. Although there was an update in the latest ISO 27001 version, to 2022 version, which is actually more technical from what it used to be. And all the companies globally will need to shift from the previous version, which was 27001 2013, to the 2022 version. So I think, to be honest, it actually depends on your customer requirements. If you're based in Europe, you might want to go for the ISO. If you're aiming for the SOC 2, you might want to get for the US market. More of kind of the same. There is approximately 60% similarity, but the auditor's methodology is completely different. And this is something that you should be aware of. Might be that some of you, maybe eventually majority of you, will need to have both of them if you will want to expand the business, because some companies will require the SOC 2 and other companies will require the ISO 27001. And we never want to miss a business opportunity because of a tactical things that we can solve kind of rapidly, somewhere between 3 to 6, 8 months. So that's regarding that, but eventually most of our customers, our partners, don't do SOC 2 for fun and don't do SOC 2 because they have huge concern from their security environment. They do have concerns, but the incentive is the customer requirement. So I would say stick to your customer, and if this is one big customer or a few small customers, eventually it's a question of ROI. How much they're gonna pay me, what I forecast from future requests from future customers versus how much it's gonna cost me. So that's about that. I hope that it answered your question. Regarding the next question, where can I find a guide for SOC 2 technological requirements? Looking for something like step-by-step guide on how to exactly, I need to design my software to comply so I can get to the audit first time and pass successfully. Great questions. Actually, at Scytale's website, we have a couple of great ebooks and guides. We also have the first SOC 2 Academy. It's totally free, very comprehensive, everything that you want and need to know about SOC 2, how to build your controls, how to address for the relevant trust service principle, how to implement controls, prepare for the audit, how to write the section 3, how to navigate through deviations, everything you have over there. So just go to the website, look for the SOC 2 Academy, and you can just go for it. It's great, guys. It's great resource. It's done by our compliance experts at Scytale. Now, talking about IT budget, I'm going to the next and final question, guys. Talking about IT budget, how much did you have increased the spending on software like MDM, antivirus, firewall, observability SaaS like Datadog, and etc. So, Alex, maybe this question is for you. I'll just say that we have 1 more minute. I do want to share that it's very much depend on the size of the organization and the modules you take. In antivirus, you can take something that is cheaper, something that is centralized managed, something that has a anti-malware and EDR and more capabilities versus something that is more lean. I can share that for startups. When we advise and partner with startups, we try to keep it as lean as possible, understanding that there might be resource allocation and budget restrictions. In total, the cost, the audit cost can cost anything from $5,000 to $20,000 for a very small company. For large organization, it might get to $100,000. You will need to have a penetration testing, web application penetration testing, most likely gray box. That might cost another $4,000 to $12,000. It really depends on the complexity of the platform. You might want to have a compliance automation platform that might cost additional cost, $5,000 to $20,000, $25,000. It really depends on multiple things like what features you're gonna take, what's the size of the organization, how many frameworks, and more. We do try to find elegant solution and quick and something that's clean, as long as the company is gonna grow, they will most likely need to add more and more tools. For example, we don't recommend to add Okta from day one, even though that's a great tool when it comes for single sign-on and identity provider. But still, we won't recommend it because there are some other stuff that are also important. Alex, anything you have to say about this one? About this
No, I
question?
think it was a perfect answer, right on point.
All right. So guys, I'm gonna wrap up. We have one last minute. So just what we do, we help companies for automation and people that've been auditors, Big Four that understand, but also have a startups mindset. They work quick. They put speed up front. They try to find a lean solution in the beginning and then scale up. We scale up with companies from 50 employees to 3,000 employees. And we have hundreds of startups that we work closely day by day today with the fully automated and our expert that work through Zoom, work through Slack channels and everything that most of you might work. This is how we manage stuff and transforming everything from the past to the future to reduce 90% of the time and be there for any question that you might have. Take the heavy lift from you guys, from CTOs, to work with us. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alex. It was fascinating. Thank you for everyone that joined us. And until next time, thank you, guys.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.